We were talking about angles in triangles, and we want to be able to apply the Triangle Sum Theorem and apply the exterior angle theorem. So the Triangle Sum Theorem says the sum of the measure of the interior angles of a triangle is equal to 180 degrees. So if we're looking at this example here for number 1, so 180 degrees is equal to the measure of angle 1, measure of angle A, plus the measure of angle B, plus the measure of angle C. And then we can just substitute the values in that we know. So we know that 180 is fixed. It's not going to change. And we know that as the triangle sum theorem, we're going to add these angles together. We still don't know the measure of angle A, so I'm just going to leave it as that, measure of angle A. We could substitute in an X there if we wanted, but I'll leave it as that for this example. The measure of angle B is 60 degrees. The measure of angle C is 45 degrees. And then we can combine like terms. So we get 180 degrees is equal to the measure of angle A plus 105 degrees. And then we want to solve for the measure of angle A, so we subtract by 105 degrees. And then we get 75 degrees is equal to the measure of angle A. So that's 75 degrees. We have another example, and in this case, it's the same idea. We have 3 angles for the triangle, and we're going to just add those together, and they're going to add to 180 degrees. So 180 degrees is equal to, now we know that we're adding these together, so that's never going to change. We have the measure of angle L. Sometimes that's tough to write, angle and L right next to each other, plus the measure of angle M, plus the measure of angle N. And then we can substitute in the values that we know. So the measure of angle L is 10 plus 5x. The measure of angle M is 5 plus 5x. And the measure of angle N is 85. So from there, we can combine all of our like terms. And so we have 10, 5, and 85. We add those all together, and we get 100. And that's, we still bring down the 180 degrees. And then we have the 5x and the 5x, that gives us 10x. So we can subtract 100 from both sides of the equal sign. We get 80 is equal to 10x. And then we can divide both sides by 10. We divide both sides by 10, and then we get 8 is equal to x. So then we can substitute those values in. So 5 plus 5 times 8 and then we get 45. 5 times 8 is 40, plus 5, that's 45 degrees. So this is the measure of angle M. It's 45 degrees. And then we can check the measure of angle L. And that is going to be 10 plus 5 times 8. And 5 times 8 again is 40, plus 10, and this is 50. So the measure of angle L is actually equal to 50 degrees. And 45 plus 85 is 130, plus 50 is 180, so they all add up to 180. The next one is got to do a few extra steps before we can use the triangle sum theorem. It says find the measure of each numbered angle and justify your calculation. So for this one, we have to use vertical angles in order to find out, in linear pair, in order to find out what those missing angles are. So the easiest one in my mind is I know that the measure of angle 3 is 84 degrees because of vertical angles. So the measure of angle 3 is equal to 84 degrees, and that's by vertical angles. Because vertical angles are congruent. Next one, not quite as straightforward, but still pretty straightforward. We see that these two angles right here make a linear pair. So I know that a linear pair is equal to 180 degrees. So 180 is equal to 119 plus the measure of angle 2. And then I want to solve to get the measure of angle 2. So subtract 119, subtract 119. And when we do that math, we get 61 is equal to the measure of angle 2. So the measure of angle 2 is equal to 61 degrees, and that's by linear pair. Linear pair add up to 180 degrees. And so we have 61 degrees and 84 degrees. And then we can use that in the triangle sum theorem to figure out what the measure of angle 1 is. So the triangle sum theorem says 80 degrees is equal to the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 3. And then we can substitute in those values. So we're still going to keep the 180, the equal signs. We're still going to have both plus signs. We're going to keep those. Those aren't going to change. And then we'll substitute in the values. 3 is equal to 84 degrees. Measure of angle 2 is equal to 61 degrees. And we'll just leave the measure of angle 1. We can combine our like terms. So 61 plus 84. And we get 145. And we're still going to add that to our measure of angle 1. And we'll subtract 145 from both sides. And then we get 35 degrees is equal to the measure of angle 1. So that's 35 degrees up there. And that was by the triangle sum theorem. So we had three. We had to know vertical angles, we had to know linear pair, and then we could use triangle sum after that.